Dude, you're totally running in second gear. It's obviously not your day, your week, or even your year.
That reminded me of my first car. The way you ended that reminded me of my first car. It was a '64 Volkswagen Beetle trying to go uphill.
My God!
Oh, yeah, that's tough.
What a train wreck! Look at is Stephanie shocked or frozen? Did I just like freeze you with that horrific performance? Car crash at the end. Pinto car crash at the end.
Am back in?
We're back in. Absolutely.
I had to switch from the living room to my office.
Okay.
I was on the wrong Wi-Fi.
Oh.
You always do that.
Because lately I have been working from my living room.
Yeah.
For like most of the time. I got to a point where I was so tired of being in my office. So I like to change it up. So I'm in my living room a lot. And I come back here when I do the recording. So I'm like, I'm still on the front Wi-Fi. I'm not on the back Wi-Fi.
Got to be on the right. Are both Wi-Fis on the same WISP?
Yes.
Okay. But there's a difference somehow?
No, I have an extension for my routers. And I really need to come in. I really need to spend some time on doing an overhaul in my house, but I just haven't had the time because I know my router is probably out of date. And
yeah. Maybe you should lay your own fiber optic cable out to the ranch.
Maybe I should become a WISPA.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should.
Good.
You know, every time we go to that Mountain Connect event with Mr. Gavlinski, I'm like, this WISP thing sounds so interesting.
Only when you're not doing it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you guys safe out there in Texas with all the crazy weather events that are happening, the tornadoes and such? It sounds like it's pretty bad. I mean, they make it look like it's bad. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard
it was bad in spots from what I saw. I mean, from where I am, there's a about 20 miles south of us. There was some tornado activity. I mean, but literally where I was, it was just rain. A lot of rain, crazy thunder, and that's about it.
We got nothing but wind. No rain, no storms, no tornadoes. So it kind of flared up right to the east of us, so we didn't get anything.
And up here in Big D, we got wind and some hail. Of course, Dallas always seems to get hail.
Oh, hail. It's a 2-syllable word. Hail.
Hail.
Oh.
I was so worried. Luckily, it didn't where I'm at right now. I'm over. There's an area called Trophy Club. It's like north of South Lake. And luckily the hail didn't hit here because my car that I've been doing the mother of all road trips is just outside. And I was like, because every year I see these horror stories. It's like Waco or Dallas and these hail. And then they show the picture of all the cars at the car dealerships that are outside and they look like golf ball dimples all over the cars. I can't. And it seems like that happens every year.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean,
having the insurance on all these cars that just get beat to death by hail.
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 Hail. Do they have an IoT app for that? Jeez.
I don't know. And it's also been cold up here in Dallas. What's that all about?
I was asking that. I'm like, this doesn't seem normal.
No.
No, the weather. I mean, literally, one day it was 80 degrees. The next day it was 28. Oh, like, how do you swing like that?
That's crazy talk.
Yeah,
that's how Texas weather is to me. It's always just all over.
Pretty nutty.
Yeah.
Until about a little bit late April, then it just is full-fledged hot.
welcome to Hades.
You get the hot and the cold.
Yes. So I've been doing this great IoT road trip across the Western United States the last week. Started off in Seattle.
Yeah.
Kind of made my way through Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Arizona. Stopped in Arizona for a bit. Did get to go, I stopped in Page, Arizona, which is right there up north on the border with Utah, and did the Antelope Canyon. That was definitely a bucket list thing I'd been wanting to do for a long time. That was mind blowing. Then right after that, just another hour and a half, 2 hour drive to Grand Canyon from there. So it's been cool. It's been a lot of fun. And then just hung out in Scottsdale for a few days, laying out by the pool, because in Arizona, I can count on the weather being a certain way.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Except for my sister was there for spring break a week and a half ago, and it was massive snow. And just north of Scottsdale.
Wow.
They weren't expecting that.
I would never be expecting that. That's crazy.
Sedona
I was staying at this cool retro hotel right on Scottsdale Road, and it had all the palm trees and the pool. It's a really shallow pool. I don't know if that's the thing now. I've seen pools where part of it is shallow, where you can kind of lay out in the pool halfway in, halfway out. Almost the whole pool was that way. And they just have speakers all over this hotel, and they're just pumping hip hop the whole time. It was awesome.
That sounds like a really nice vacation.
It was like a party. It was just a big party there, yes.
Well, my son he's at the South Rim today in Grand Canyon, and they started their descent at like about an hour and a half ago. So
wow.
I'm like, they can decide on whether to go to the halfway point or go all the way down and come back up. And they would get back by nighttime. So it's all day. It's like, I think there's an option between 11 miles and 24, 25 miles, something like that. So I guess I'll find out later what, if he was strong enough or hardy enough to go all the way.
I was not hardy enough. I just looked over the edge at South Rim. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's a long way down. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But yeah, it's good to be back in Texas, driving through West Texas, through Odessa and Midland and Abilene and all that good stuff. And now I'm in Dallas. And so
can you guys hear all the racket behind, like for my sound?
There's a little bit
echo, or I don't know what it is.
I have to show you what it is. Hold on.
Okay. All right. Oh boy. I'm sure it's not an IoT device. It's a cat.
This one right here.
That's a cute cat.
He's playing with his little round toy thing, and he's just going nuts over there. So yeah, he's one that we rescued. His name is Gus.
Hey Gus.
Hey Gus.
How's it going, Gus? You're looking good. What a cute kitty.
He's taking over our household.
Yeah.
Just for that, we'll have a 1 million view podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
It turns out we have cat videos.
Don't care about cat videos.
That's all they want is cat videos. Yeah. They don't care about the rest of the stuff.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What is going on in IoT these days? Anything new? Any news? Anything hot? No.
I think Leonard's stirring the pot, asking good questions with polls and everything.
Yeah.
I missed the poll. What was the poll? Wait, did I answer? No, I didn't see it.
Can you have?
If you don't have connectivity, can you still have digital twin?
Right. Yes.
And it's amazing how few people actually reacted to the post, even though it's got something like close to 20,000 views in like less than a day.
That's pretty crazy.
But there's a pretty good poll response, and some really smart people on both sides of yes and no. And then there's this huge pool of digital what.
I love it.
Which is probably the right answer.
I think the right answers only come from me and Rick.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys know how you voted.
Here it is. We have the physical twin. We've got the physical box of Kleenex and the digital one. They don't have to be connected. Now, there may not be as much value.
Oh, well. I think that was my point, is that if you have a digital twin and you have the physical, right, the minute that you release that connectivity, that twin, that digital twin starts to become a distant relative.
Yeah. Oh, well said.
Yeah, it's becomes a model, and like the way I always look at things, and the way I always looked at new technology trends that IT organizations who are my clients suffered, was to ask this fundamental question: what's net new? Right. And so when we look at digital twins versus simulation modeling, which has been around for a long time, sure, it's gone digital. What's really new? And I kind of take a little bit more of a conservative view on digital twin, just because I want to preserve the place that digital twin has in sort of the IoT realm. And I understand that it's used in PLM, but it's weird. You look at the pole; it's like literally split, right? And and so it's like, why do we have literally a techno religious war going on around this whole idea of a digital twin? So it's interesting, and at the core of the disconnect or the disagreement are semantics. It's semantics, but the problem is there's a semantic disconnect, and that means that both sides of the no, the yes, and the digital what, there's there's no communication. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. But it was like an unintended consequence. I just got triggered watching a couple of keynotes. And that's the reason why I put that out there. I didn't really expect to see what I saw. I thought it was going to really skew more toward one side versus the other of the argument.
I was not surprised by the split at all, because I think, to your point, the model piece. So I've made it a point all along, whenever I've talked about it, is that no two digital twins are alike.
Yeah,
they're just not. I mean, when you looked at the BIM side of the world, and now you look at this XR VR side of the world, they're all, as long as they stay connected and they're stateful and updated, they're digital twins. Everything else is a model, and you take a modeled approach, but as long as this other physical side is continuing to be updated, that data is changing that. So this snapshot of the twin that you had at one time was accurate.
Right.
It is no longer accurate. So is it still a twin?
Yeah. And that's where I think, like what you're saying, that interface, that cyber physical interface, if that component isn't there, it makes it really difficult to see the value in calling something a digital twin versus just a digital model. And you bring up a really interesting point, because, digital twins can reside or be a part of, I think, a model that can then support a simulation, and I see that more as an application more than anything else. But you people can argue things. They come at this digital twin thing from different angles. But the thing that bothers me is the XR world basically is using it as a marketing, tool or a buzzword. Where all of a sudden everything is a digital twin. It's like, no, wait a minute. Let's step back. You've been doing this modeling stuff and simulation for the last 20 years. Well, how did it all of a sudden become a digital twin? Because I recall what?
Because it's getting hot in here.
It's getting hot in here.
Yes.
They're just jumping on the bandwagon.
Everybody knows how to, well, it's one word, marketing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wow, this is hot. Let's jump on that train, and ride that wave because it can increase our sales.
Yeah,
right.
No, it's 100%. And I mean, when I started hearing it, because I know Rob, you and I and others have been out advocating, talking about it, educating, right? And I'm at the point now where I don't even want to talk about that digital twin. I don't want to say that. So I would rather say they're like, well, we hear you do digital twins. No, I do stateful representations of a physical device.
Just because the word is loosely thrown around in all of these different areas, it lost its value to you, and you're like, no.
Yes, totally. Yeah. It is. Everyone's using it, and everyone has one. All right, I'm gonna go get something different.
You know what it is? The problem is we're there's now a techno cancel culture. We're canceling.
Oh no!
I'm canceling the metaverse already.
We're canceling it.
I canceled the metaverse.
Exactly.
I just can't get over it.
Rob canceled fabric and platforms.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Canceled it. Boom. Exactly. I need a new data fabric, or that spans the metaverse and holds it all together.
And see, I canceled New Normal a long time ago. I was like, I can't.
Good for you.
I can't do that one.
We're not buying into the New Normal stuff. Digital twin stuff. We kind of talked about how in the last year, I was like, wow, it's gone from the obscure fringe to I see the words every day now. Digital twin. So that tells you, you do social sentiment analysis or other thing. It's out there now, and everybody's saying it, and everybody is wrong.
Everybody is wrong.
Except for Rick Bullotta. Yeah. Everybody's wrong. Yeah. And I've said people are reaching out to me all the time. Companies like, we do 3D scanning of environments, and it creates digital twins. And actually, all they're doing is they're just scanning, and you see a picture of things.
Yeah.
They're saying it's a digital twin now.
A visual representation.
Yeah. The 3D models. You've seen this in CAD drawings for a long time.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm like, yeah, no. So it totally lost its value, to me. And
when we asked that question in that survey, Leonard, about their knowledge of the term, and there was like maybe, I don't remember, 15 or so tech terms, and it was one that overall was way low in comparison to IoT and 5G and whatnot. But when you looked at the results for just the manufacturing and industrial type industries, those guys claimed they knew what it was, but everyone else was kind of like, I don't know what that is. Yeah. So, and they, like you said, Rob, they see the term being it's in every marketing piece, right? Yeah. So they don't really actually know what it is, though.
Yeah.
There's also been this evolution in IoT and the IoT companies that make building platforms and stuff. You saw many years ago, like AWS, when they had AWS IoT Core, and they had device twins or device shadows. And I saw some people think, well, that must be the digital twin. But, all it was, I think a lot of times people confuse a device with the actual thing, the twin. And I've been guilty of that too. And I've kind of evolved, because it used to be I've beat into the ground using the example of the car being the digital twin, and the car's telling you its speed and RPM and how much pressure in the tires and the oil pressure and all that stuff, and the size of the car. And, there's the dynamic things, there's the static things, and the car is talking to you. And so it was always easy for me to say the car, there's the model of the car and its properties, and then there's the instance of the digital twin instance, which is your car.
Yeah.
It inherits from that. And that was always easy for me to put my head around until my head exploded when think about last summer, we did a few different coffee talks where I was just sitting out in a field and farm. And all of a sudden, because I'm really slow and dumb, I was like, wait a second. I'm trying to do the digital twins now are apples, an apple orchard. And they're really, even though a car is an inanimate, kind of animate object, these plants, it's really hard for them to talk to us. And so when I've evolved, so, my digital, and here I am on my IoT roadshow across America, and I have my composable digital twin platform on this laptop that I'm talking to you from. I'm not lying. It's true.
God.
But I've had to do a better job of evolving and separating the relationship between the actual things, the physical things, the twin of the things, the devices that are sending telemetry on behalf of the physical things, but they're not the thing. And so, but a lot of people think the device as somehow the twin, the device. And so when you're building,
I'd like to see that in a graph, please. Start that out for me.
Yeah, but because when you're building the system, you have to realize sensors and stuff, all they're doing, they're doing something on behalf of a real thing. They're not the thing. They're there to help you, right?
Right.
And so there's this on behalf of notion. And so soil moisture and nutrients and stuff like that are giving me a close approximation of the health of one apple tree, let's say, and sending it back. And then we're inferring how good or bad things are doing in a field. And so it's important, I think, whatever it is, if it's a factory or whatever, especially, so think about industrial IoT. What do we always say? We're going to be retrofitting for decades. Those old machines can't talk to you because they're dumb. And so what are we doing? We're putting stuff on the machine, like vibration sensors and all that stuff. It's not the machine. These things are doing stuff on behalf of the machine. And what's digital? It's just a not so close, but trying to be close approximation of the analog world. So put that needle on the record.
Exactly, dude. No, I love how you bring this up because you're absolutely right. There are people who get the sensor device or that device confused with the thing, and sometimes, like if you're in a field, the apple is not the thing. It's just generally the field, right, or that particular location. And
no, the apple is the thing.
Is it really?
Yes, it is. The apple.
But you're not instrumenting the apple. You're instrumenting the field.
But listen. When we go from the physical, the analog, to the digital world is doing a best effort to create an approximation of what's real, which is analog, needles on the record, and so tube amplifiers, things like that. Anyway, and so you were trying to infer the health of the apple tree and the apples because that's the thing. The customer, that's what they care about. They're growing apples. They're selling cars. They've got a skyscraper. They are using sensors to infer the health, the state of the thing. And sometimes it's easy for a thing to talk to you because maybe it's a connected car with a zillion sensors. Or like when I was at Hitachi, we'd have 40,000 sensors on a bullet train. But a tree, it's a little harder. And so, but it was good for me. It was a good exercise for me because I'm so dense to realize I had to readjust how I was building a digital twin platform to make sure it accommodated all kinds of bizarro things. And so there you have it.
What are we talking about now?
I don't know.
So, here's the ironic thing. Bill comes on, brings this thing up, and then he ditches out.
He's like
drops a grenade over the wall.
David, this all started from Leonard's post or his poll on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that I put out there.
All I got is it's really hard to retrofit an apple tree.
Yeah.
There you go. You summed it up.
It is. Yeah. It is. But what are we doing in the real world if you don't have the twin? A person is walking up to the tree and visually inspecting it. Yeah. And they're saying, are the apples growing? Maybe they put their fingers in the soil. Does it seem damp to me? Are they getting enough water? Yeah. Does it look like it's dying? Is some kind of disease coming into the trees? Remember, that's all IoT is. We're just replacing people's eyeballs and noses and mouths and our senses, right? With sensors. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think so. Here's where I'll challenge that. you have the sensors, but you're not instrumenting or monitoring directly the condition of an individual or unique object. So if you're saying that you are creating a digital twin of a tree and you're inferring, that's a pretty complex mechanism that you're developing in the field. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're implementing it through some sort of cognitive function based on, computer vision or some algorithm that some smart algorithm, that inference that is pretty profound, And so, I mean, I would go back and say that you're instrumenting the field and you are, based on data, inferring what kind of environment that tree is in at the moment, real time. That's the way I would kind of look at it.
It's hard because, to your point, you know how we do grouping. Like you might group a bunch of things together, and a lot of times you're thinking, well, it's just for organizational purposes. But the reality is, if I'm only putting one device and associated sensors per acre of apple trees, I don't have the high fidelity that I would love, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm actually inferring on an acre of trees. There could be hundreds or more trees in that acre, and I'm inferring about the health of all of them. From one spot. And so now the twin. In this case, the digital twin is really the group of trees and the inferred health of all of them. Because again, it's not perfect, right? We're trying to get to perfection, but we're just not there. But remember, this is we're trying to replace manpower with technology, which is what we've done since the dawn of time. And so normally, again, could a person in their cowboy boots or in a pickup truck, would they physically inspect every individual tree and every apple? Probably not. It's too many.
But that, the thing is, you mentioned, a few times actually that a digital twin can be pretty simple, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be this 3D representation that has all kinds of, behavioral attributions and stuff like that. It could just simply be a few data points that are important in characterizing that particular instance of a real physical thing. Yes. That's resonated with me quite profoundly over the last 3 years that we've been talking about this stuff, and I think it's an important point. But and it's also underscores why we need to treat data and schema from, let's say, the actual mechanism of twinning separately, right? I have kind of come to the conclusion that you have to think about the data model separately, because digital models, as well as the twins, kind of go off of the same schema, So, you have like the IoT consortium trying to create a common universal schema for things, right? Digital twins. Well, that's like trying to boil the ocean. It's a really tough thing to do. And the thing is it's not specific to twins. I mean, we've had digital models and modeling forever, and we've tried to create schemas and harmonize these schemas for common things forever as well. Well, if it didn't happen there, what makes anybody think that that's going to happen for digital twins, right? When digital twin implementations, the implementation, meaning the actual technical implementations, the schema that are used, tend to be very, very specific to the application that they support. You know what I'm saying? And to the point that you were making, let's say these IoT consortium guys come up with these, or the digital twin consortium guys come up with these really expansive, schema definitions for a thing. You might only need to use a couple of data elements out of that whole thing to support your twin. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it's like all this effort for nothing. And how people just get confused. This stuff is really confusing, actually.
I think sometimes we overcomplicate. I think that in some cases, the digital twin kind of technology is being used when it's not needed. Like you said, there may be just some simple things that come in from the weather, data that says this is the weather, this is the temperature, this is the moisture. Maybe we only need one sensor that's testing the moisture of that soil. Or maybe it's some kind of robotic arm that's taking a visual image and going up and down the rows, and that visual image just says, oh, this is off. We see brown leaves or something. But sometimes I feel like we're overcomplicating things where we are just like we've been doing with data collection. We're collecting so much data for the sake of collecting it, but we're not leveraging or using it. The whole idea of IoT is automation, and we want to predict and prescribe and make decisions on that before some kind of disaster or disruption in our business. And sometimes I feel like we overcomplicate things to where that is why we are not scaling, is because we have so many complicated technologies, and are they really saving us any money, or are they really doing anything for our business operations compared to the way we're doing it now? Yeah. So we're kind of going in circles, I feel like, as an industry. And I think we've talked about this so many times. I mean, so many episodes where we feel like we're going in circles and we're not really getting anywhere with this.
Stephanie, to your point, do you think we are doing ourselves, in a way, a disservice by calling something like an apple tree with so many variables? Do we do a disservice by calling it a digital twin, when it's much easier for Rob to give us a digital twin of the irrigation system and pump control and other things, but not the tree? So do we lose people, to your point, by making something as complex as a living entity and saying that we can give you, or we should give you, or you should explore a digital twin, when maybe we just call it, something else? Is this one of the times that we're shooting ourselves in both feet for no good reason?
Well, I mean, I agree with you, David, on that, because I feel like there are a lot of startup companies that, man, this is cool what they're doing. But when you think about the value proposition of that particular solution or whatever they're launching, because a lot of them are really point solutions, they are, again, we're missing the customer. Is a customer going to pay for that? Is there going to be some kind of value that's going to come out of that says, yes, I do want to replace. I know maybe it's 3 years that I pay this off, and they actually start to see some kind of positive ROI out of this. I don't know. I do feel like we miss the boat often because we are overcomplicating the technology. Why do we need to have a digital twin to have 20 different inputs if we're not really using it, or it's not really doing anything that's going to save us money?
But see, and I think
but that's how companies approach it. They want to, They want to say, okay, try this out, but what they're you talked about the POCs and everything. I feel like we are going in circles as an industry, and we're overcomplicating things, and we're not leading with the customer. We're not leading with, let's look at the customer's ecosystem and what they're dealing with on a day-to-day. We're creating technology for the sake of creating technology. Yes, it's cool. We're seeing some cool simulations and some things that are happening with this technology, but does it mean anything to the business?
But
to your point there, Stephanie, so let's think of a simple example where with IoT and twins, right now you have an electric meter reader on the side of your house, and some guy jumps over your fence into the backyard and sees what the meter is, writes it down, maybe puts it in the phone. Yeah. And then in some cases, we have connected meters that are using either mesh networks, or maybe some of the newer ones are using NB-IoT to send that telemetry. And so it's, right. And the twin, though, is the twin your whole house? Is the twin the electrical system? To your point, it's a low fidelity twin. The only data point you cared about was just the kilowatts per hour that person's been using.
Super simple.
I don't need to know. Yeah. I don't need to know everything about the whole house and all its appliances. I just needed that one data point. So maybe there's a volume dial, low fidelity to high fidelity twins.
Well, it's the same thing with like smart cities or infrastructure. If you have that infrastructure in place and you're doing all of these great things that you've always been doing for the city, and then you find new ways to leverage that existing infrastructure, that whatever, 5G, whatever it is, right? And you start to add on other things that help improve the citizens' lives or citizen services, then that makes sense. But when you have to invest or start from scratch, this is where I feel like, that's why the manufacturing and the industrial sectors, they retrofit all the time, because it doesn't make financial sense for them to throw everything out the door and start from the create the digital world in their factory floor.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So a good example of a high fidelity digital twin would be what is the counterpart to a new Tesla you might buy, because that is a greenfield scenario, doing everything bleeding edge from the get-go. And so there's probably no vehicle more sensorized and able to receive updates to make it enhance it than a Tesla. But everything else is not nearly as mature as a Tesla. In fact, not even close. And maybe that can be okay. It just depends.
Yeah.
And Rob, I'm gonna stay on theme here of things that are doing us a disservice. And back to your example in the apple orchard, that if we had, I'll stick to calling it a digital twin or whatever, but the replacing people bit. I over the weekend I had some exchanges with folks who live in a manual operation environment, that they've been doing it like this for a long time, and they expect their kids and their kids to go through this line of business that I'm going to be careful not to say what it is. But this automation thing sends shivers down some people's spine, and it's not well regarded everywhere. Like, I think if you were talking to one of your buds in Eastern Washington, that is like it's my family farm. It's 4 of us. Automation sounds really, really interesting, because that means that one of the kids can stay in school longer, or Grammy, like I can stay home, and you give me time. So it's like, I hear it, but there's other places where it's like, no, and we don't want to hear about retraining or reskilling. It's just no. And I will go as far as sabotaging any attempt that you may have to bring this. And that's a reality that we have to deal with. And again, the example that I'm thinking about is from a large outfit. So anyway, this is
it's legit.
really hard to contend with, because we have a cultural issue, we have a financial issue. Who are you talking to over there?
Yeah.
And if there's no, and while, sometimes, see, from the government perspective, so this is public, sometimes we see funds allocated for infrastructure. And if you're reading the documents, they'll say, hey, if you're automating something, it's cool, but show us your plan to keep the jobs that are in there today when the operation is manual. We see that in government. We don't see a corporate response to that. We don't see that as part of the journey to 4.0 or whatever. And I think as providers, we are missing a big chunk of things that could be done, because we are seen as going in there to eliminate jobs.
You know what, David, you have a point about that, because one of the big drivers from the SBA with funding for PPP funding and emergency EIDL funding, they were all driven around the fact of retaining those employees. So they're battling that internally. And these are mid-sized companies, fairly fast-growing companies that have, 800 employees or whatnot. They might be 800 employees in 20 different locations, but they're still considered an SMB. be. But the SBA is saying, hey, we'll give you this funding. You retain 80% of those employees and you get this funding. If that changes, then we disincentive, you may not get that funding. So the incentive from the SBA was keep manual labor on board. So it maybe after these 2 years of all of these companies getting this funding, there's not an incentive to automate, right? Because they need to stay afloat. They need those people to be on board so they can get funding and stay in business or stay open.
I guess those guys wouldn't like those guys probably wouldn't like Elon Musk's lights out gigafactories with nobody in there.
No.
Well, but here's the thing, farming is a great example. Let's look at the human labor in farming anywhere in the world 100 years ago versus today. I mean, where is there more automation than in farming for the food that we're eating? So it's not like farming went away. It's just, hey, that's a job that, there's not that many job openings for farming today as we had, in at the turn of the century. And
that's such a great example. Yeah.
Because
it used to be 100% human labor to, till the soil speed. And then we had oxen and horses to help us after a while pushing those things.
Yeah.
We just got smarter. And then we built machines and we built combines and it's automation. Remember, to your point, 100 years ago, almost the entire population of this country was in farming because it took everybody. Yeah. And today, farming accounts for less than 2% of the population. And that is 100% because of automation.
And now we have autonomous systems, equipment that's going out and they don't even need a driver, in some cases.
So I think that's a good example to take to other places where it's like, look, it's not Armageddon from one day to another. It's just, we are able to deliver this output with less people, well, then let's do right by the people. You know what? If you're going to eliminate my job in 20 years, make it part of my contract. Yeah. Hey, man, I want you to be the best person in 20 years. Here's your, pension, 401k, like just whatever. But our plan is to automate you in 20 years. And I might go like, all right, that's fine. But we don't approach it like that from a service provider technology.
Yeah, think about all those
stuff. I don't think we need to, because I think automation gets a really bad rap. When you think about what happened with agriculture, a lot of what we've seen thus far is a result of mass production. That's not necessarily automation. There's still a lot of crops where you have to get people out there. Like, it's not exactly that easy to pick strawberries with machines, right? Or blueberries. So, but the thing is the thing that has been so, let's say, disruptive to, manual farming has been mass production. And so the machination, all these machines that can now do things at scale, that's really what has changed the equation here more than automation. I think we're looking at automation because, that the big thing I think in IoT right now is all this attention that ag is getting in IoT, right? So, Rob, you were like spot on with Thunderstruck and focusing on, well, at least in terms of, kind of foreseeing, how much attention that agriculture would be eventually getting. But that's where we're all looking at right now. But we're only at the visibility stage of stuff. It's like, how do we get better visibility to these different assets in a field?
And you know what, Leonard?
Better manage crops, but that's not.
I think ag has been a great example. But David, to your point, I think what gets businesses exciting is not, okay, we need to automate or we need to figure out where to digitally transform our business. But what gets businesses excited or alarmed is you know what? Your competition is moving at a faster rate than you are right now with these things. You're going to be losing market share. You're going to be losing business. You're going to be losing out because your expenses are too high or whatever. So I feel like we as technology vendors communicating or trying to sell to the enterprise is we have to kind of look at things very differently. Instead of, we're very myopic in thinking, okay, let's focus on this technology and what it does for this business. I think that we've already come a long way. I think a lot of technology vendors are starting to get that they got to put themselves in the business's kind of shoes or their seat. But where we really make a difference in the industry is thinking about how that particular industry's ecosystem is evolving and whether your client is behind the curve, above the curve, or they're going to miss the boat if they don't. And some of those things involve, they involve a lot more expertise about the industry itself and really understanding regulations or the ecosystem, who they're working with today and what's changing. And then leveraging that conversation as a way to start to pinpoint areas in their operations where they can totally make changes to keep up with the competition. So competition is a big driver in whether they're going to be eliminated or whether there's going to be some kind of disruption in a few years that might completely change their industry. I feel like we've got to move beyond trying to understand the customer and what they're doing. We got to take it to the next level and start to understand their competitive positioning, their marketing strategy versus their competitors and where they are in the market. And we might actually be able to leverage that to sell them technology because of it.
Yeah. David brought up so many good things today here. The one thing I learned, which I didn't know when I was doing the farm thing, is that as it turns out, they don't have enough employees. They don't have enough workers in the fields to do the job. There's a giant labor shortage. I know it's hard for people to believe, but there is. And so we weren't going to replace jobs. The technology was going to augment or fill in gaps because we didn't have enough labor workforce to do it. So when you hear those stories of food rotting in the fields because we didn't have enough people to harvest it and stuff like that. And so the owners, the growers, they're desperate for the technology. Maybe that's why ag is getting a little more buzz lately, is because of this. They need the help that they don't have.
That's you understanding that industry, especially in certain regions of the United States where they have a massive labor shortage. And let's pinpoint which farm and ag operations are at that point in their operations, and we need to go and have those conversations with them.
And
so it's just a different approach.
It is. Another thing that David said that was good was the idea of sabotaging technology. And I absolutely have seen that a lot. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's as old as time, sabotaging technology because it's replacing jobs. Yeah. And so, but I saw it at the beginning of my experience with IoT back in the mid 90s. We built this stuff monitoring vending machines and optimizing routes and all kinds of stuff. And the owners, the business, loved it. Saved money, made money. Who didn't love it? The route drivers who would restock the vending machines because they said, you're going to eliminate jobs because you're going to make it so efficient that they won't need all of us. And we absolutely saw the route drivers go into the vending machines, open the door, and start grabbing our technology and the cabling and everything and sabotaging it because they thought it was a threat to their jobs. And so I've absolutely seen that up close, and it's a thing. It's real.
And look, just for the not advocating for anyone to go sabotage anything today or next week, but also a lot of these things, is within a business or within an industry, is also the feeling of the worker being disenfranchised. That if the company does something to just make incredible amount of money, that they don't share as much. So they're just saying, it's the whole two sides to every story. But it's it was a somber reminder this week.
Absolutely.
Well,
adios, guys.
You've said it all.
Gonna take off. Okay,
I gotta take off. Good talking to you guys, and I'll see Stephanie on Friday.
Yeah.
Oh,
See you.
awesome.
Woohoo.
Bye.
All right, take care. Have fun,
All right.
guys.
To come.
Wow.
So,
Interesting conversation. As
Yeah.
always.
how many times have we talked about like digital twins? So I think
A
like
lot.
maybe 5, 6, but like the episode.
Well, yeah, probably
At least
about
4.
6 or 7. And then we
At
had
least.
like the SmackDown with
Oh, that was a big one.
Yeah.
That was one of the most, probably one of the most views. Is there was a lot of leading up to that
We've
event.
had a lot. We've
main
had a
event.
lot. Yeah. And, it's interesting how the concept or the term digital twin has just been morphed over time. But, again, highly overloaded. And the way it's being used right now is it's confusing everybody. It's like metaverse. Nobody knows what
Web3.
metaverse is. Yeah, but the thing is there is something very specific that is digital twin, and I think all this overloading just confuses everybody. So anybody who's used to or new to the term digital twin or the concept digital twin just gets confused because they don't see the foundational, the thing that makes digital twin different. Do you know what I'm saying? Now it's become everything. So you have certain companies that are talking about digital twins of the earth or digital twins of this and that. And then you look at the way that they're representing it. It looks like VR, it's just a 3D representation of a thing, a complex thing. And that's not necessarily what a digital twin is. You know what I'm saying? It's a model. We've been doing that forever. It's a digital rendering. So
But you can bet
that's why we keep coming back to this. And then there's other industries that are taking a different lens to the term. And that's where the mass confusion is happening. But what's worse is all the stuff is coming together. The different audiences are coming together trying to talk about digital twins. But everybody's using it in all kinds of weird ways now, so
I Stephanie made this point. What if at the end of the day we're bringing a solution that makes sense and has like a decent shot at an ROI, it doesn't really matter what we call it.
Yeah, I mean,
digital twin, analog cousin, hoop-de-doo, just
avatar, blah blah blah,
widget, thingamajiggy, doesn't matter.
If you got to put that in your SEO to get people to visit your solution site for that, then do it. But
yes, I'm going to talk to we're going to buy thingamajiggy IoT. So that
I think the best rule of thumb is the good old rule of thumb is always ask, well, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Don't assume that if someone brings up a new buzzword that you're defining it or reviewing it the same way, and go through the effort of understanding how that other party is actually using the term or what they're referring to. Because oftentimes, and this is just something that I've learned over the years, working with different techno camps, it's people, in the Java world use the same term differently, and they view it differently from people in the .NET world.
Every project that I do with customers, I will have a kickoff meeting, and that's the first thing I do. That's part of the agenda is, okay, whatever topic that we're working on, market, industry, I'll ask, how do you define that? What do you include in that? How are you using that term?
Yeah.
And if I don't, then we're never on the same page. And that's just where we are in the industry. We're all using these techno terms, and we all have varying definitions for them. So that's like a big thing. And it's already bad enough that we confuse our customers. So we've got to do better.
Bad enough that we have challenges with IoT, the term IoT. So anyway, I think it's time for us to wrap up. Who wants to take us out?
Wait, where are you, David? You got the beautiful sun.
Yeah, no, I'm not here in San Francisco, not too far from my on the kids' school parking lot.
Oh, you're
yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. I dropped them off and jumped in.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take us out. So we learned a lot today. What did we learn? What did we learn? Well, Rob is on his IoT cross the country tour, and he's like he and Bill. They know anything and everything digital twin, and they have their own definitions of digital twin. We have talked a lot about digital twins, but really, what does it mean to business? David had a great point. Doesn't matter. What are you going to do for the customer? Right. So we want to, one of the things that we got to make sure that you all know is you got to check out all of our episodes of the Digital Twins on IoTCoffeeTalk.com. Right, Leonard?
Yep.
What are we going to be talking about next week? Do we have any special guests coming?
Yeah, we do. We have Oswald Mangal joining us from Deutsche Telekom. Really cool dude. So he'll be a guest next week, yeah. And I don't know what we're going to be talking about. We'll figure it out when we hit that record button.
Well, I mean, if we have him on, it's going to be the death of telcos by 1,000.
We got to talk telco world.
Yeah. That's what it is. Death of telco.
Yeah.
So until your next cup, follow us at IoTCoffeeTalk.com. Thanks.
Like and share.
Bye.
Like and share.
Like and share. Take care.